Good evening, everyone. Bienvenue tout le monde. Bienvenue au conseil du 1er février 2021. Welcome to the council meeting of the 1st of February 2021. We will start the meeting with a few updates from council. And like you, I think we're all anxiously awaiting any news from the provincial government tomorrow in terms of any changes that we have from the province and from public health. And rest assured, if there are any changes to the facilities, such as the WRC or how we manage in our parks or things like that, we will make sure they are communicated as quickly as possible on our website. But we continue to ask you to adhere to the public health guidelines. So if you are at the toboggan run or at the skating rinks, to make sure that you keep 2 meters apart. And to respect all the guidelines that are in place. There's signs everywhere, so that's very important to remember at our skating rinks, at the summits, at Murray Hill Park. But it's wonderful to see so many people in the winter enjoying our parks in that sense. So I'd want to thank all of our public works teams and everybody else who's worked so hard to continue to ensure that there's lots of outdoor options, because we know they are incredibly important for people, but as well, what our community events and library team have been doing to reach out and connect with citizens. So last week they had Mitch Joel's first fireside chat, and I think it was a smashing success, and I look forward to many more of them. So those are some of my updates. And now I will hand it over to council. So Councillor Bostock, any updates? No. Councillor Cutler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just a couple quick updates. First, we have, we're forecasting a snowfall over the next couple of days, and we anticipate our snow removal operations starting Wednesday evening, most likely. And we'll continue through till Friday evening. And then we'll have to actually stop if it goes beyond that due to our restrictions in terms of our teams. But what I ask of our residents would be to make sure that you've moved your cars out of the way so that we can move so we can run through the operation as smooth as possible. I mentioned it last month, but we're not going to be running those sirens like we used to. So please be aware of your streets in front and around your home in order to make sure they're clear and we can get through that snow clearing operation as quickly as possible. And also to echo the mayor's comments around our hardworking public works team, keeping our parks operational and everything as much as possible during this time. I'm happy to see people using the parks and all our facilities that they can. So that's on my end.
Oops, sorry. Councillor Shammy. Thank you, Councillor Cutler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have the privilege tonight of bringing forward a motion about respectful democracy, out of Respect for Democracy campaign, an initiative de l'Union des municipalités du Québec, the UMQ, has put forward la démocratie dans le respect, par respect pour la démocratie, and I look forward to presenting it later on tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Shammy. And Councillor Peart, I believe you have an update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say a quick word. Last week, I had the privilege of being invited to the WAC, which is our Westmount Accessibility Advisory Committee. I was invited in the context of being a member of the being Commissioner of Urban Planning, and I believe Councillor Bresky is doing a tour of all the departments and bringing in the various members of council and the various members of each department to listen to the membership of the WAC and to hear some different perspectives. You know, some of these views, which we not views, but some of these experiences rather, which we aren't always exposed to, we don't always hear from. And so it was a great experience for me. I mean, yes, professionally, I'm quite aware of accessibility, but it's usually from a dimensional perspective, you know, from a regulatory perspective. And this provided me with a different kind of an experience where I'm hearing from the end users and hearing some hearing some narratives and provides like a new lens to their experience. And just one, as a simple example, we were talking about the tree canopy in our public spaces. And it was just said in passing, and I had a question. Well, I didn't really understand how a tree canopy could how it was linked to accessibility. And then somebody pointed out that, well, often with somebody who has who has differing needs of accessibility or different needs of ability, they have a caregiver, and if a caregiver is outside for an extended period of time, a tree canopy is very welcome. So these are these little anecdotes, these lived experiences that our residents have, and some of which I would never have any access to. And I was very, very grateful for that opportunity, and I think this community will surface a lot of different experiences around our city, and I think it'll inform our policy making, and ultimately I think it will make a better experience for all of our residents, and make it more inclusive. And so for that, Councillor Bresky, I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity, and thank you. And on a more administrative note, I'm trying something a little bit different because like everybody else, we're all constrained with our COVID restrictions and our opportunities to see each other in person. And so I'm trying something a little bit different. Every Thursday for the next few weeks at 4 p.m. I'm just opening myself up to what I call office hours. And it's office hours on Zoom. It'll be for an hour. There's no structure to it. It's not a town hall. It's really to replicate like an office hour experience. And so if you'll go onto to the city website, you follow down to me on the council board, you'll be able to just tick, and you'll get the invitation you'll be able to sign up for the session. And I invite all of my constituents or anybody with urban planning issues. There's no agenda. Whatever you have to discuss, I invite you all, and let's just see where it takes us. So with that, thank you very much.
Great. I think you'll have lots of colleagues wanting to do the same. So maybe you go first and see how it goes. But that's a great initiative. Thank you. And I echo your sentiments about to Councillor Bresky, but also want to highlight the members of the Accessibility Committee and how important, what an incredible way to volunteer and give back to your city with which will have a lasting impact and legacy. So I would like to thank them as well. And over to Councillor Bresky.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, and thank you, Councillor Peart, for that very nice feedback. And thank you for attending yesterday as well, Councillor Lellum, who was in attendance, and as we discussed the Urban Planning Department with the Urban Planning Department Director. So onward, we're going to welcome other councillors. So I'm looking forward to having everyone around the table benefit from these amazing residents who are committee members. And in my District 5 little update, a rather big update, it's the Groupe Maurice project that is ramping up to another phase of construction. And just wanted to let the residents know of the traffic plan that had been discussed at last week's Traffic Advisory Committee meeting. So you will be seeing trucks from the Groupe Maurice site traveling towards the east on St. Catherine, and then turning down the Glen towards de Courcelles to then get back into MDG. It will be only one way. We've been in discussions with them to try to limit the amount of truck travel as much as possible. So you'll only see these trucks on the south side of St. Catherine and not on the north in this phase. And we're going phase by phase. And we are in discussions with Groupe Maurice how to limit the inconveniences. One of the things that is not allowed on Westmount territory is for these trucks to idle. There's no wait time, unloading and loading. According to the Westmount bylaws, idling can be ticketed if the temperatures are warmer than minus 10 degrees Celsius. So obviously on very, very cold days, you may see some cars idling, but they wouldn't be because these trucks cannot even stop. So they have to just go from the site and off out of Westmount. So there'll be more activity, and this is an update until end of February, but Group Maurice will be communicating and issuing a new communication to residents to explain this information. In the meantime, we're working to erect some no idling signage, and we're looking into other matters to try to limit as much as possible noise and dust, etc. So that's a bit of an update on Group Maurice, and that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Breshke. Councillor Gallery.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am delighted to announce that this week is the kickoff for Westmount Winter Carnival. It will be a little bit different than in past years, as you can imagine. It is officially called the Westmount Winter Carnival Challenge. So we have a lot going on. It's in collaboration with the library and community events and the sports and rec department. And I hope you've seen all the social media advertising what can be done, but there'll be a list of tasks that you and your family members can participate in. And we hope you take pictures put it on your social media and tag hashtag Westmount Challenge and put it everywhere. If you don't have social media or access to it, it is all available on our website. And there's lots of fun to be had. We also want you to try a groove dance class. There's a story walk in the park with a live reading from the author and with the illustrator. And there'll be a movie night on Friday. So there's lots going on. I hope you participate and make the most of it. And with all this new snow coming our way, it could be really a fun outing for you and your family. So hashtag away Westmount Challenge. Thank you. And I guess just in addition, with regard to other activities, as the mayor said earlier, having to do with the sports and rec, the arena, or the library, if there are any changes from the Premier's upcoming announcements, we will let you know. As usual, please always check our social media and our Westmount website. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gallery. Councillor Lalonde.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So I wanted to talk about parks. So the current survey ended on January 18th for the park and for Westmount Park, for the restoration of Westmount Park. We're going to be having a meeting with Stantec to go over the documents, the submissions that we received. However, as I spoke to my fellow councillors earlier, I'd like to do a few more smaller initiatives to be inclusive of all the different residents in the city. I've heard from quite a few seniors that, they were unable to participate because they don't have electronics. They couldn't see the presentation and henceforth couldn't comment. So we're going to look at what we can do about that. And I will be coming back next month with more information on our proposed program. With regards to parks for this summer, so we all know what the parks went through last summer with the large crowds, lots of garbage, etc. So we're starting planning now on how we can maintain sanitary and safety conditions in all of our parks and green spaces. And of course, always hoping for the cooperation of our residents and users. And so there'll also be more information on that. But it doesn't look like, we'll be COVID-free this summer. So we need to start planning now on how we can best make our spaces available in a sanitary and safe way for all of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lalonde. And Councillor Kez, I don't think you have an update for, oh, you do? Okay.
I just thought of it. It's a little update regarding District 8. I know residents walking down Green Avenue under the overpass. It's been very dark in the evenings. And so this evening, the MTQ has installed temporary lighting, so it feels much safer going down. And the permanent lighting that will be going down Green under the overpass will be installed in the coming months. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those updates. Now, before we move into the question period and the rest of the agenda for the night, I just wanted to note that it was with great sadness the passing of Mayor Gallery, who is also Councillor Gallery's father, but it was, he was a great Westmounter, a great Montrealer, a great Quebecer, a great Canadian, and he had many, many accomplishments, all of which gave back to his community. And one of those accomplishments was he was a councillor for 2 terms, and then he was the mayor of Westmount. And he was a true public servant. And so I collectively with council just want to extend our condolences once again to the gallery family, and to thank them for sharing him with the city, because it's a family goes into politics together. It's not just the person. And so it's very much the gallery family was part of that. And he was always generous with his time, with his advice. He was incredibly kind to me from the moment I got on council. He was so encouraging, and he was so encouraging of everyone on council. And he was incredibly proud, especially of his daughter's decision to serve on council. So I think all of council joins me in sending our condolences, but also our thanks for the service that he gave to our city. So thank you. And now we will move to the first question period. So I'll hand it over to the city clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our first question received was from Dennis Bureau. This question is as follows. The proposed zoning bylaw changes call for the elimination of limits to the number and size of restaurants in the 2 commercial districts, as well as the removal of the requirements for table service. Even prior to COVID, there were many commercial vacancies in both districts, some even former restaurants, and a few vacant for years. In the 5 years prior to 2020, did the permits department reject any restaurant applications because the maximum number of restaurant permits had already been reached? Have any of the large property owners indicated to the city that the current restrictions are acting as a barrier to the opening of restaurants in Westmount? And if the constraints were removed, they would increase the number of restaurants?
Thank you for the question. And I am, just before I hand it over to Councillor Lulham, just as everybody knows, I mean, the zoning is not something that can stand still in time. And if you look at our commercial streets, they are zoned in the same way they have been for decades and decades at this point, and people's habits have changed, and how people use those spaces have changed over the years. And we've seen a shift in retail that has been significant, and that won't go backwards in time. So I will hand it over to Councillor Lulham, but this is not, we don't take any of these decisions lightly, and they are incredibly important decisions as we try and build on the success of our commercial districts. So Councillor Lulham.
Yes, well said, Mayor Smith. Indeed, in regards to your question, I'll just go backwards to say first why these rules were put in. The rules were put in 2010 and 2011 when we felt there was going to be an influx of fast food restaurants after McDonald's had come, and our citizens were not keen on this. So in order to limit fast food restaurants, we put a restriction on size and on table service. Well, today, fast food restaurants open in small locations, so neither of the restrictions wouldn't work. If they wanted to come, they would be here. And all we are really doing is handicapping the larger spaces, which remain vacant for a very long time, as they cannot currently have a restaurant. So in response to your question, have large property owners indicated? Yes, they have. Is there a lineup of restaurants coming? No. But we have to look for after COVID. And we also need to be less restrictive and more open. Included under the restaurants is also marché alimentaire. And when we did a survey of the residents 2 years ago, we had an enormous response from all over the city, over 1,000 respondents who said they wanted more food services. They were interested in gourmet products and food services. Last 2019, we did another survey in December 2019 that came back with 700 respondents who 80% or more said they wanted more restaurants. So though, as I say, I don't think at this moment you're going to see a lot of restaurants opening. I know that one is opening on Sherbrooke, but beyond that, and there are vacant restaurants, but we want to be more open and permissive and be ready when they do want to come. We had not ever met the numbers, to my knowledge, in any of the zones. We've never refused a permit. So why have rules when you don't need them? It makes it very difficult for our permits department. If somebody does come and want to open a restaurant, it takes them several days to do the research to see if they can open in that locale. They have to count how many restaurants are there. They have to look at the size and get the measurements, etc. So we want to speed up our service. We want to be available and open. We want to create dynamic retail areas, commercial areas. We want more terraces and the like that give life. Last year, the opening of one business, which I will have to say it's Councillor Shammi's wife's, but that ice cream business on Green Avenue animated the street at night as has never been seen before. And what a huge difference it made. So we want to do more and more of this, and having restrictions that aren't needed. I mean, not allowing requiring table service. If you look at Time Out in the Eaton Center, that's a cafeteria style, no service restaurant that has, high-end food. So we just want to be more open and permissive and create dynamic commercial areas.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's certainly restaurants, what we've seen on St. Catherine Street is restaurants bring restaurants, right? If you look at what
Correct.
Gentili did for that block,
Exactly.
and then others coming. And I mean, listen, we also know how difficult this has been for the restaurant industry. This has been such a painful year for them. And we absolutely we'll continue to work with them and do anything that we can to support them. And there have been some that have opened. I mean, we can all share our favorite takeout place. If you haven't been to La Franquette on Victoria, it's like the guts it takes to open a restaurant in this time during a pandemic. It's quite something, and it's delicious and it's wonderful. And we're fortunate to have them in our neighborhood. So I hope there's more of La Franquette and places like that.
And Mayor Smith, we have a new pizza, and another one that opened just recently is a pizza and chicken takeout restaurant on Sherbrooke Street West also. And then we have our old standards like Nick's, and all of our restaurants have worked so hard to accommodate to being able to serve meals to take out during this COVID time. Nick's introduced TV dinners. I'm always keen on seeing the innovation and the ideas they come up with. And so I recommend that all our citizens also participate in Takeout Tuesday or Takeout any day of the week.
Takeout Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yes,
They,
exactly.
Anyways,
Shop local.
I think that's let's support these restaurants, and let's see who else comes. Does anyone else want to add to that? No, thank you. Next question.
Okay, our next question is from Elizabeth McCallum. And her question is, I live on St. Catherine Street in a Category 1 house. We currently have a very leaky roof that needs to be replaced. We have had challenges communicating with the city on what materials are acceptable, both using current materials and new, more environmentally conscious materials, i.e. a white roof. We have reached out to the planning department and are told to consult the bylaws. In my case, there's no clear definition and answer in the bylaws. My question is there an organized mechanism for residents to review and discuss their project with the city to determine if the project meets planning guidelines before a permit is requested? This would prevent multiple refused permits and streamline the process.
Thank you to Ms. McCallum for your question. I applaud you for looking at new initiatives, especially green initiatives like this. So I'll hand it over to Councillor Peart, who may have some more context on this.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know the details of your particular application, but I certainly I can understand your need to and your desire to get some answers from the Urban Planning Department, and that's what really they're there for. So what I will do is I will have the Urban Planning Department get back to you, make sure that they can walk you through the process and assist you, because that's really what is part of the task of the urban planning is to accompany our residents through the process. So I'm sure there's a straightforward answer out there to help you along, and we'll see what we can do to help you out.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Our next question is from Richard Locke. with a first part being, I'm not going to mention the parking on 300 block of Lansdowne Avenue since a questionnaire is being considered. Recycling. The information on the city website is not as clear as it might be. More guidance would be useful. The numbers alleged to be on some packaging is extremely difficult to make out, and there's often conflicting information. Inside a triangle on 1, I can just make out a 7, or is it part of the decoration? Below this, it tells me other. Another has a minute 1 inside a minute triangle, while another tells me 50% recycled. Can it now be recycled or not? Detailed examples can be found online, but not so much on our own website. Please examine the website and perhaps make a few adjustments.
Thank you. That's very good feedback. It's always good to hear how residents interpret the information on our website. So that is noted. Councillor Brushke, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes. Sometimes this is great feedback, and we can ask to review and add some precision on the website. But essentially, the website's structured where it's easiest to look at what's not recyclable. And there's really only one type of plastic that's not in Montreal, and it's the number 6 for now. There's a pilot study to see how to recycle it, and the Eco Center in LaSalle accepts the number 6 plastic. So, and it's very easy to identify. It's either styrofoam, which you can identify by, marking with your nail on it. You find that in some of the packaging of furniture or electronics, or just styrofoam in food products. And then there's the rigid. So there's the rigid polystyrene, which is the same plastic, but it's rigid, and it's those milk little containers for the coffee, single portion yogurts with the thin plastic, blue plastic, and the black plastic containers of the mushrooms, and single-use utensils, CD covers. So those are not accepted. It's all under the same category of plastics. And what I can ask is that we add some of those items in the drop-down to make it more visible. That's great. And I guess a recommendation to residents would be avoid the plastic if you can. Consider the packaging when you purchase products, or hold on to them until you get a big pile and then bring them to LaSalle. And then hopefully this pilot project is going to work so that in the future all plastics will be accepted. But essentially all of them are, all those numbers are, except the 6 for now. And that's
thank you for clarifying and the answer, and we will look at ways we can continue to improve the information on the website. So thank you for your question. Any more questions from the city clerk?
No other questions received.
No? Okay, so we will now move into the adoption of the agenda, and we have a new pro mayor this month. So Councillor Brushke, item number 4, adoption of the agenda. Over to you, you're on mute.
I'm on mute, yeah. Je propose que l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du conseil du 1 février 2021 soit adopté.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que j'ai un appuyeur? Councillor Chamy, all in favor? Carried. Numéro 5, la proposition de procès verbal. Encore, Madame Brushke.
I move that the minutes of the regular council sitting held on January 18th, 2021 be approved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gallery, all in favor? Carried. Reports to council, rapport au conseil. Il n'y a pas de correspondance. Aucun rapport n'est déposé. 6.2, le procès verbal du comité plénier. Encore, Madame Brushke.
Le procès verbal de la rencontre du comité plénier du conseil du 21 décembre 2020 est déposé et est disponible sur le site web de la ville.
Merci beaucoup. 6.3, Councillor Kez. There are no F&A reports to be tabled, I guess, this month.
No reports to table.
Thank you. 6.4, Councillor Bostock.
The minutes of the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting held on December 8th, 2020 are tabled and are available on the city's website.
Thank you. 6.5, 6.5, le rapport de main-d'œuvre, Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The workforce report for the month of December 2020 is now tabled.
Thank you. 6.6.
Thank you. The list of payments for the month of December 2020 is tabled.
Thank you. 6.7, Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In accordance with bylaw 1507 on the delegation of powers to certain employees of the City of Westmount, the list of authorizations and expenditures for the month of December 2020 is now tabled.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, the adoption of council's position on the items to be submitted to the Montreal Agglomeration Council. Councillor Brushke.
Je propose que la mairesse ou, en son absence, le maire suppléant soit autorisé à prendre toute décision qu'elle jugera opportune à l'égard des sujets inscrits de l'ordre du jour de la séance du conseil d'agglomération de Montréal devant se tenir le 25 février 2021, et ce, dans le meilleur intérêt de la ville de Westmount et de ses résidents.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lulham. And on that note, that is the one that is scheduled for now, but residents should know that during, especially during this time in the past 10 months of COVID, there have been several Aglo council meetings throughout the month to deal with different issues and emergency powers and whatnot. So what used to be one typical a month is now, there are now several. So all in favor? Carried. Item number 8, honoring Mr. Alex Kuzma, security guard for the congregation Shar HaShemayim. And I hand it over to Councillor Bostock, who I believe will read the whereases for this important motion.
These are good ones to read out. Whereas Mr. Alex Kuzma has worked as a security guard for the congregation Shar HaShemayim since 1991. Whereas on January 13, 2021, Mr. Kuzma noticed on the surveillance cameras a person defacing the building on the Shar HaShemayim synagogue. Whereas Mr. Kuzma quickly intervened to confront the perpetrator less than a minute after his arrival and detained him until the police arrived. Whereas Mr. Kuzma's immediate and heroic actions prevented further damage to the synagogue and/or harm to the people inside and the community. Whereas Mr. Kuzma responded with a sense of duty and love for the community he protects. I move that the City of Westmount hereby recognize the heroic actions of Mr. Alex Kuzma and honor him by expressing sincere gratitude for his service to the broader community in protecting against hate-inspired destruction.
Thank you very much. And I think all of council joins me in really, we felt this was important to honor his service, not just to the Shar, but to the entire community, and to reiterate that we absolutely stand with the Shar and the Jewish community in speaking out against this type of hatred. And it has no place here in Westmount. It has no place in our province, in our country. And we just really wanted to recognize his heroic actions and thank him. Because truly, we hate to think what could have happened, but we want to thank him. And he's a familiar face for anyone who walks in the neighborhood, whether you are a member of the Shar or not. You see him always outside with a smile. So I just want to, with all of council, we just really wanted to recognize that. So do I have a seconder on this motion? Everybody, but everybody will second this. But for the record, let's put Councillor Shammy because it is in his district. So all in favor? Carried. Item number 9, respectful democracy, out of respect for democracy campaign. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I mentioned in the preamble, that I have the honor tonight to read into the record this important motion. And, we're living not only in unprecedented times with the pandemic, and our world has been turned upside down, but if you look to the challenges of democracy and freedoms around the world and everywhere, it's so important and in the last motion honoring Mr. Kuzma and saying no to hate and to support all our citizens is so important. Madam Mayor, I'm going to read the preamble, the whereases, because I think they're important. Whereas the polarization of public opinion in traditional media, and particularly in social media, leads to a multiplication of aggressive statements and acts of intimidation against elected municipal officials. Whereas this phenomenon has escalated since the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis in 2020. Whereas intimidation, threats, verbal abuse have no place in a democracy and do not promote the public's trust and recognition of its democratic institutions. Whereas respect is a fundamental element of our democratic society, which in turn requires the fundamental recognition of great freedoms, including the freedom of expression. Whereas a respectful democracy honors the role of elected officials and reinforces the quality and the authority of our institutions. And whereas l'Union des municipalités du Québec, the UMQ, has launched a national campaign on democracy and respect. And whereas the members of the UMQ Board of Directors have adopted the following commitment statement on December 4th, and then I'll read into the record. Our democracy is rooted in our history. We choose those who govern us. In a democracy, we can all be candidates for public office. When elections are held, citizens delegate the administration of the collective good to people who offer their services like us. This way of managing our living environments, our regions, has enabled us to achieve one of the highest standards of living in the world, to evolve with safety, to have the opportunity to live our lives as we please, and to express ourselves freely. Democracy, Madam Mayor, thrives on debate and the clash of ideas, and it's possible as long as people respect each other. However, in these times, our democracy is too often mishandled by unfortunate incidents, incivilities, disrespect, threats, intimidation, identity theft, and in recent years, particularly with the rise of popularity of social networks, vigorous but respectful debate has been too often been replaced by insults, threats, and intimidation. But this was true before the pandemic, but the pandemic has made it much worse. It's normal that this difficult situation be a source of concern and anxiety. It's normal that we sometimes disagree with the decisions of authorities, but it's not acceptable that women and men who exercise a public responsibility in the service of their fellow citizens should be intimidated, forced to resign, sometimes even receiving death threats, or forced to travel with police protection. Within less than a year, municipal elections will be held all across Quebec municipalities. Until then, we must take care of our democracy. We must return to a debate that respects people and the institutions in order to make the best decisions together. Let us remember that elected officials and the public office holders are committed to the well-being of their population. Let us encourage political commitment, not discourage it. And as elected municipal officials, we're proud to serve our fellow citizens. That is why we call for respectful democratic debate. We say respectful democracy out of respect for democracy, and we invite elected officials from all across Quebec to join the movement. I move, Madam Mayor, that the City of Westmount endorse this commitment entitled La démocratie dans le respect, par respect pour la démocratie. That the City of Westmount commit to supporting elected municipal officials and all spheres of municipal governance to promote municipal democracy and build trust and confidence in the democratic institutions. And a copy of this resolution be sent to the Union des municipalités de Québec.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chamy. Do I have a seconder on this motion? Councillor Bostock. So this is important. This is being adopted by municipalities all over the province that choose to do this, and it's incredibly important. It's timely. It's we engage in this process, in the political process, because we want to bring forward ideas. We want to hear other ideas. We want to debate them. But when it gets whittled away by social media that's inaccurate or other statements that are inaccurate. It lessens people's ability, their willingness, and their drive to serve the public. And it's to be on a city council, to serve any elected role is it's a privilege of a lifetime. It's incredibly important, and we need to ensure that people continue to want to do that. That politics doesn't get so ugly that that only people who enjoy, fighting and slinging mud want to engage in it. And so I think this is an important reminder. And I mean, I guess one thing I would say, if you're writing to your elected official, and whether that be your federal elected official, your provincial, your local, municipal, and you speak to them in a way that you would never speak to a family member or a colleague, maybe think twice about how you are writing it. And I fully understand the impact that COVID has had on people. I understand that the mental health impact has been horrendous, and it will have effects for a long time to come. And on every demographic, kids, seniors, and especially now as seniors are more and more isolated right now. I mean, the target really is to isolate 65 and above right now. And everything that we're doing is difficult for everyone, but we have to continue to have respect for one another, or we'll end up with not having people willing to do this anymore. And that's a terrible thing for democracy. And it's like the importance of the freedom of the press as well. We have to trust the freedom of the press, or you won't have people wanting to be journalists anymore. So I guess I'll leave it at that. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on this. This is something that has affected, anyone who's in public office right now. But it is an important topic. When you write in all caps as well, it's like you're screaming through the keyboard. So maybe take off the all caps. We'll still read your email. It doesn't need to be in all caps. But does anyone else want to comment on this? Councillor Shammy's covered it all. Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Carried. And so you'll see other cities adopting similar motions over the coming weeks. Is what I understand, what I've heard from some of my other colleagues as mayors. So thank you. Item number 10, Councillor Kez, contracts payments for the 2021 fiscal year.
Yeah, I'll go ahead with the whereases also. Whereas at its special sitting held December 21st, 2020, Council adopted the budget for the 2021 fiscal year, resolution number 2020-12-240. Whereas over the past few years, the Municipal Council has awarded contracts with terms of more than 1 year and has authorized the related expenses for the current year. Whereas the expenses for these contracts must be authorized for the 2021 fiscal year, I move to authorize expenditures for the 2021 fiscal year for the contracts in the attached list. To allocate these expenditures in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2020-1160. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kez. And a seconder on this, Councillor Breshke. Any further comments on this or clarifications?
Yeah, these are contracts that were entered into, which are over a year, and we must every year authorize for the 2021 fiscal year. So it's just continuation. It's for furniture, could be for photocopy machine rentals, tractor rentals, just ongoing contracts that have to be renewed every fiscal year.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item number 11, the adoption of bylaw 1567 to amend bylaw 1566 to impose and levy a tax and compensation for the 2021 fiscal year. The city clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to report that all formalities required for dispensing with the reading of this bylaw have been observed, and that copies of the bylaw have been remitted to all members of council and are available for public reference. The object of this bylaw is to postpone the latest dates on which the payments of property taxes and compensation for municipal services may be made. And I would like to mention that a very minor modification was made to the language of the English version of section 2 of the draft bylaw to clarify the language. And a copy of this modification is available for public reference.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que je peux avoir la déclaration de la part de chaque membre du conseil présent à la fait qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement et que la lecture en est dispensée?
So declared.
So declared. Councillor Kez.
I move that bylaw number 1567, entitled Bylaw to amend Bylaw 1566 to impose and levy a tax and compensation for the 2021 fiscal year be adopted.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Shammy. All in favor? Carried. I declare that bylaw number 1567, entitled Bylaw to amend 1566 to impose and levy a tax and compensation for the 2021 fiscal year, having been duly adopted, it is ordered that notices be given as required by law. And this is in line with what Councillor Kez had announced 2 weeks ago, in that we are delaying our taxes by 3 months on each payment. So you should be receiving the tax letter with all of those details about the payment dates any day now. I think they were mailed. I think they were actually mailed today. So, Councillor Kez, do you have any further comments on that?
No, it's self-explanatory. Dates are postponed. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. And we were able to do that because of the postponement of our payment to the Montreal agglomeration payments. So item number 12, modification of a contract, professional services for geotechnical studies and the preparation of plans and specifications for the reconstruction of Sunnyside Avenue, Q-2019-036. And this is Councillor Cutler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the contract awarded to Le Groupe Conseil Génie Pure Inc. the professional services for geotechnical studies and the preparation of plans and specifications for the reconstruction of Sunnyside Avenue, resolution number 2019-09-194, be modified and increased to a maximum amount of $98,648.55, all taxes included, and that the additional expenditure be authorized in the amount of $15,866.55, all taxes included, for professional services for geotechnical studies and preparation of plans and specifications for the reconstruction of Sunnyside Avenue with Groupe Conseil Génie Pure Inc. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making files number 2019-0842 and 2020-1159.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cutler. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Shammy, any further comments on this?
So we awarded a contract back in 2019 to this engineering firm for the reconstruction of Sunnyside, for the drawings and specifications for the reconstruction, not to carry it out, obviously, for $90,000. But and during their work, the mandate changed a little bit. We recognized or we discovered some retaining walls and some other pieces of the some other components that were unforeseen. And so the cost of the contract needs to be increased by $15,000 and change. And so as we do with these types of contracts, any type of amendment has to come back. Even a small one like this needs to come to council for approval. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and Sunnyside is one of the major projects on our infrastructure list for this summer, and was one of the ones that had to be delayed due to COVID restrictions when the construction season began last year. So we look forward to the beginning of that project. So thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item number 13, Monsieur Shammy, modification d'un contrat acquisition de logiciels e-tron FCS et équipement pour le système e-tron mobile.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move. Hold on, let me find it here. I apologize. Je propose d'autoriser une dépense de 57 360,38 $, incluant le crédit de taxe pour l'acquisition du logiciel e-tron FCS et des équipements pour le système e-tron mobile avec e-tron Canada Inc. Sorry. I'll turn the paper here. Et que le contrat accordé à e-tron Canada pour l'acquisition de logiciels e-tron FCS et des équipements pour le système e-tron mobile soit modifié est augmenté à une somme maximale de 65 950 $ et 10 sous, toutes taxes comprises, d'imputer cette dépense conformément aux informations financières inscrites au sommaire décisionnel numéro 2020 11 37 et 2021 11 63.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que j'ai un appuyeur? Councillor Gallery. Councillor Shammy, any further comments on this?
It's straightforward. We just
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. And for our last item on the agenda, item number 14, urban planning approval under the site planning and architectural integration program. Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that according to the recommendations made by the Planning Advisory Committee at its meetings held on January 25th and 26th of 2021, the building permit applications appearing on the attached list reviewed under bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs be approved.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peart. Councillor Lulham would like to second that. Any comments or any significant projects?
No significant projects, doors and windows mostly. We do have a new pool. These pools seem to be trickling in.
Yeah, they are certainly in a post-COVID world. Okay, that's all in favor? Carried. And that is the end of the agenda. Do we have any questions from online?
I'll do a final refresh just to make sure any that have been received are
Be
received.
wonderful to get a question in the second question period.
We have no questions received for our second question period today.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. And I hope that citizens participate in our winter carnival. We know it's different, but they've gone to great lengths to try and make it fun. So hopefully families and all sorts of, everybody, all generations are able to participate. So we encourage you to be in touch with any questions or comments between now and the next council meeting. And if not, then feel free to send your questions at the next council meeting. So thank you and good night, and stay tuned for any changes that the government makes tomorrow. We will certainly update however they affect us, and that communication will be on our website. So thank you, everyone. Bonsoir. Good night.
Good night.